Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar. We'll run through the UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperatures over the next 5 days. So we have a weather front in the north and the west at the moment, warmer and southwards and eastwards, but this weather front that is bringing in cooler air will be slowly spreading southwards and eastwards over the next 48 hours before clearing the whole of the UK, probably on Saturday. The rest of the weekend doesn't look too bad. There will be showers around, some cloud around, but temperatures will be around average. But come Monday and Tuesday, it's going to be turning a lot colder. A real quite severe cold front is sweeping southwards with Arctic northerly winds, not only giving us some precipitation, some cloud, but also quite a chilly wind chill for this time of year. Feel like temperatures could be down sort of the mid to high single digits in the day, especially towards the coast and in northern areas in general. And overnight, where we do see some clearer skies, we could see temperatures drop close towards freezing, especially in inland areas. So yeah, real cold next few days, setting up early next week. And the general outlook, as we see on the GFS, GM, ECMWF and the Ensembles, is for quite a cold and very unsettled theme. There is higher pressure around, but at the moment the majority of operational runs and ensemble members have potentially high pressure building in temporarily for a couple of days here or there, but most of the time low pressure is in and around, over the top or nearby to the UK, giving frequent bouts of precipitation, a lot of showers and instability around. So yeah, if you're looking for some dry and warm weather as we head towards the end of September and start of October, it does not look likely. More likely you'll be cool at average to below average temperatures, could be well below average like early next week, with generally unsettled conditions. There will be dry days here or there, but I'm not expecting anything like some late summer warmth or earlier autumn summer warmth. Yeah, not looking like anything like that or any Indian summer sort of patterns into October. None of that looks likely at this stage, but of course we'll keep our eyes on it and we'll have to see what the models are showing today. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe. And remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now, if you start on the live radar, you can see at the moment we've got that weather front in the north and west, bringing some patchy precipitation in, and it will become more extensive over the course of this evening into tomorrow, slowly spreading south and eastwards. Elsewhere, it is reasonably dry, not too bad, some sunshine breaking through, and it's not too bad in terms of temperatures today. If we do put those temperatures on, around 4 p.m. as I'm recording this, temperatures are widely in the mid to high teens, touching potentially on 20 degrees in quite a few areas, as we do have a generally warm air mass around at the moment. It's not particularly warm, but it's around average with some sunshine around, with a bit of a westerly flow. It's not too bad. With, of course, sea surface temperatures, especially in around the UK and to our south and our west, are really quite warm, above average this time of year. So any wind coming in from the west or the south, or even an easterly or southeasterly this time of year, is still going to be reasonably warm, with sea surface temperatures in around sort of the high teens at the moment. So yeah, really quite warm indeed out there, but it is all going to change with that wind direction looking likely over the next couple of weeks to be generally from a northerly or northwesterly direction, giving us a more cool and cold feel. But as you can see on the live radar, not too bad at the moment, with these oranges showing temperatures peaking around the low 20s today. If you go over to the UKV and have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days, if you run through, you can see how that precipitation is slowly spreading in from the north and the west at the moment, gathering steam through this evening and becoming more extensive overnight, and by tomorrow, rush hour is quite heavy, precipitation pushing across Republic of Ireland into northwest England, northern Wales and Scotland, slowly spreading southwards and eastwards, giving a good bit of rain to most areas and parking up through Wales and northern England through Thursday afternoon, and southwest England as well. It does slowly, as I said, spread south and eastwards, does become a little bit more patchy, but could see a little bit of reinvigoration there through Thursday evening to Friday, slowly spreading eastwards, giving most areas some light to moderate precipitation. And as we head into Friday and Saturday, you can see still some lingering rain there through Friday evening, potentially into the early hours of Saturday in the southeast, maybe some heavy showers there, but most areas by Saturday morning to the afternoon are drier, a few showers around breaking out in an unstable air mass, but it's not too bad out there. But it's as we head through into Monday, as we'll see, things all change. You can actually see Sunday, thicker cloud pushing into the north, and that's the low pressure that's giving us this northerly wind starting to arrive. Now, initially, you can actually see through Sunday afternoon, it's starting to impact the far north of Scotland, but most areas are still reasonably dry. You can see a warm front is initially coming in and then a cold front. It's very difficult to see here, but we'll have a look on the air masses in a minute. But initially there's some precipitation ahead, some thicker cloud there. You see it's quite faint, but it'll be some thick cloud, drizzly sort of rain. It'll be a warm front, and then behind it you can see this distinct cold front, potentially with some very heavy squally rain on its back edge, a bit of a squall line potentially featuring there. Again, it doesn't look too heavy, but it could still be quite violent and unsettled under that, with strong gusty winds, big temperature changes as well. As the temperature drop there, it could be around 10 degrees at 800 THPA, and that will slowly spread southwards through Monday, clearing all areas through Monday afternoon, with all areas into that colder air mass. Now we can see this distinctly by having a look at the air mass at the moment. You can see over the next couple of days around mid to maybe even high single digits at times. But as we head through Friday afternoon, you can see slightly cooler air mass does spread it through with the weather front. But around 1 degree at 850 HPA, maybe freezing. But as through Sunday, you see initially a bit of a warm front moves in. You get this wedge of much warmer air through Sunday evening. That's giving warm front and then a cold front directly behind it. This wedge of warmer air, a lot of cloud, precipitation, drizzle and stuff like that along it, and eventually does spread through. And behind it, look at the air mass, very cold air, down towards freezing at 850 HPA, 1 degree, and then even colder, maybe -2, -3, maybe even -5 could reach Scotland through Monday and Tuesday, bringing all areas towards well below average. Very cold conditions this time of year. Again, it does look exceptional. No darker blues on here. Again, we'd expect darker blues if we were sort of into winter, but for end of September, this is really cold air mass. It's going to feel real shock next week. Yes, we had a northerly airflow at end of last week, but that was around freezing at 850 HPA. This is going to be a good few degrees colder than that, and of course we are later into September, so we're having less daylight hours. The ground is slightly cooler, so it just means that perhaps early next week it's going to feel 2, 3, maybe 4 degrees colder than what it was end of last week. And I do remember that was quite nippy out there, so even more nippy than that, potentially even longer lasting, more unsettled with that, so more precipitation and cloud around will make it feel even cooler, and a very strong northerly wind will give it quite a severe wind chill for this time of year. Again, nothing ridiculous. Winter we can get sort of -15, -20 degree wind chills over the mountains, and some areas if we see a northerly or easterly wind, but we may see a wind chill of sort of 5 to 10 degrees, which is very cold for this time of year. Real contrast considering a couple of weeks ago we were still seeing mid-20s widely in a few areas, and we're not going to see anything like that in the near future. Now, if I do put on the 2-meter temperatures, just actually have a look at the actual temperatures, you can see this afternoon temperatures peaking around the high teens, maybe 20 degrees in a few spots, so not too bad. Around or above average for this time of year, even though the air mass isn't too exceptional. Just shows you we can still see warm conditions with the wind direction coming in from the south or the west, as we have it ahead of that weather front. As we head into tomorrow, overnight temperatures not too bad, around low teens really, and you can see ahead of the weather front still 20-21 degrees is possible, but behind it starting to cool down, mid-teens probably, low teens under the heavier precipitation. Behind the heavier precipitation, when we get a bit of sunshine, a few showers through, maybe 16-17, so a stark contrast, but not too bad, more around or slightly below average. As we head to Friday, you can see cold in the north and the west, maybe mid to high single digits, in the south and east under thicker cloud, with that precipitation moving in mid-teens really. And by Friday afternoon you can see maybe still 20 degrees in some areas in the south, but widely a good few degrees cooler, back towards the mid-teens, low teens in the far north and west, higher teens further southwards. And as we head into Saturday, you can see really struggling in quite a few areas. In the north, maybe only mid to low teens. In the south, maybe 17 or 18. And as we head into early hours of Sunday, we've got really quite chilly air mass. Nothing that cold compared to what we're going to see early next week. But behind that initial weather front that moves through on Friday and clears through Saturday, could get down to mid to low single digits with an air mass around freezing or 1 degree at 850 HPA, which is a good few degrees warmer than what it's going to be 24 to 48 hours after this. So yeah, mid to low single digits. Eventually that weather front will slowly arrive in the north, could still be not too bad in the south and east, but for early hours of Monday we're not going to see anything too cold, and that's because we've got a thicker cloud around holding those temperatures up perhaps for one night. But I'm expecting Monday night into Tuesday to be really quite chilly indeed, once that very cold air mass does eventually properly spread in. Now, unfortunately, we're only going to have a look at 5 days on the UKV. It'd be very useful here to have a look at day 6, day 7, if we could, because that's when we start to see that real cold air mass move in. But of course, we'll be able to have a look at it on the GFS now. So you can see, at the moment, we have a reasonably average air mass. You look at temperature deviation, see sort of blues and yellows mixing, so it generally is around average at 850 HPA. We'll have a look at the midnight run today, because the 6 o'clock run isn't fully loading for some reason, but we'll have a look at the midnight and the midnight ensemble members as well. So you can see the weather front slowly approaches, some slightly cooler air, but around freezing 850 HPA, nothing too bad. And you can see to northeast Canada there, we've got that severe hurricane, major hurricane at the moment, Hurricane Fiona, which is a Category 4 hurricane, will diminish in strength, of course, over the next day or so, heading into Canada. And this is the storm that actually causes our northerly winds. You see it build big amplification in the jet stream, and what does that do? It brings high pressure towards Greenland. Look at the pressure charts there, bring high pressure towards Greenland and plunges lower pressure. Massive application, and this is one of those examples where a hurricane, even though it stays hundreds and hundreds of miles away from us, can actually impact our weather by amplifying the jet stream and causing a northerly flow. You can see there's blues moving in. That's that northerly wind bringing very unsettled, cold conditions. Quite strong wind gusts with this as well, and we would see real chilly, unsettled conditions. We stay under this low for a number of days next week before eventually high pressure tries to build in. It does for a couple of days, maybe in that sort of like 10 to 12 day time frame, for eventually lower pressure starts to push off the Atlantic and real big severe little low starts to move in there. So yeah. Although, yes, high pressure is featuring around day 10 to maybe day 12, day 13. After it, lower pressure comes back in. So temporary build of pressure there, but most of this run we are under lower pressure with unsettled, cold conditions about. Now, if we do run it back and have a look at those upper air temperatures, especially for that northerly flow, you can see big temperature contrast. So you can see warm air mass initially, very cold air moving through behind it, maybe even the -5 to northern Scotland, stays in the very cold air mass before eventually it slowly warms up but stays around or below average before eventually the high pressure builds in. The air mass isn't too exceptional over the top of us, around average this time of year, so we could even see a bit of an inversion there where temperatures in the day are not too bad, but overnight could be very cold indeed, before eventually that low pressure spins up in the Atlantic and could temporarily give us some very warm air to the east of the low pressure, but then it would give us some very heavy persistent rain as it slowly nudges in, as that southerly wind ahead of the low pressure would give a lot of moisture to the weather fronts. We could see a lot of heavy rain from that. So even though it's a warmer air mass, actually towards the surface, it probably won't be too warm at all. Of course, if we also have a look at the potential equivalent temperature, this again gives us a good indication of the air mass. You can see real darker blues moving in there, so very cold air mass, and we stay in sort of bluish air mass for the foreseeable future. Eventually, towards the end of the run, you can see some slight yellows going there, so slightly warmer, more humid, mid-Atlantic air mass pushing in, but of course it will be fueling the lower pressure and the weather fronts. And if we actually have a look at the temperature deviation, run that back as well, all the way to when that northerly wind comes in initially, you can see darker blues there, a good 6 to maybe 8 degrees below average. We stay in and around the blues all the way to the end of the run, maybe temporary yellows there for a couple of days, and of course ahead of that lower pressure, but there would be blues spreading in behind that as well. So the next sort of 10 days looks below average from the GFS today. Cold, unsettled, yes, some higher pressure potentially building in at times, but the general theme still is for northerly or westerly winds, bringing cool, unsettled conditions, proper autumnal conditions, and yeah, going to be a real change to what we have had over the last couple of weeks, where we still have hung on to some warmth. Even towards the middle of this month, we've had some warmth, but it looks like that is all going to change with some proper autumnal, chilly, late autumn-like conditions coming with temperatures. With upper air temperatures getting close to that sort of -5 range, which is proper end of autumn sort of range, getting towards even early winter sort of air masses. Again, I don't expect to see any conditions like that. I don't expect to see any winteriness at all, apart from the highest ground of Scotland. Maybe some frosts here or there, and temperatures will generally still be in the low teens, but it will have quite a cold feel out there over the next week or so. Now, if we can move over to the GEM and have a look at what that's showing over the next couple of days, again, high pressure building in at the moment. Again, low pressure moving through temporarily, and then eventually we see that amplification of the jet stream, northerly flow pushing in, very unsettled conditions all the way to day 10, with low pressure over the top of us, generally a cooler than average air mass. Yes, initially it's very chilly for this time of year. It turns a little bit milder, but look at the temperature deviation, we generally are still below average, and you can see we are in those blues for the foreseeable future in this GEM run today. So very chilly, northerly flow, then turning into more of a westerly with a lot of low pressure around, a lot of areas of precipitation, a lot of showers, cool, windy, gusty conditions around as well whenever one of these lows moves in. So yeah, proper autumnal conditions. Again, can't rule out potentially a named storm coming up in the next week or two looking at this sort of pattern. Again, no real signs at this stage, but they're generally unsettled westerly flow with a lot of cold air spilling into the North Atlantic, we could see some lows really spin up. It is something to keep an eye on and is speculative at this stage, but this is the sort of conditions that can produce early season named storms. So we'll just have to see what happens over the next sort of week or two, and the next few days in general, see what happens. But at this stage, it does look generally unsettled and cold. If you look at the ECMWF, see what that's showing over the next 10 days. Again, high pressure and controlled at the moment for a day or so, and then the low pressure runs in. Then we see that real northerly wind plunging us very cold for this time of year, and then low pressure just slides in. Yes, it gives us temporary warmish air masses at times, but look at that. Centre low to our north, little lows developing to the south, and again, you can't rule out these becoming potentially named storms. Again, not 100%. But the potential is there over the next week or two. Yeah, very unsettled, chilly, west to northwesterly and northerly winds, and yeah, looking quite cold indeed. Now, to finish by having a look at the ensembles, we do have a look at the GFS ensembles to start. Again, you can see the 6 o'clock run is not really loading, and we look at the midnight run, you can see generally we're around or below average over the next couple of weeks, all the way to early October, looking really chilly indeed. Temporary rise in air mass ahead of the weather front that arrives in London on Friday, but after that, majority of ensemble members are below average, and some at times, especially early next week, around sort of Monday, Tuesday time, we keep getting out towards freezing at 850 HPA, which is really cold for this time of year in southern England. Potentially even some getting down to -4 degrees. And you can see that is a good sort of 5 to 10 degrees below average for this time of year. Really, really quite chilly indeed. Again, it's very difficult to emphasise it because these sort of conditions from sort of December all the way to March are not particularly unusual, but it's still September. There's still 10 to 15 degree isotherms just to our south, and we're sort of getting this sort of air mass in. Really is quite ridiculous, and it will feel cold out there. Again, it doesn't feel like it at this stage. You know, we have had sort of a very long, warm, hot summer, and it almost feels like that it will never end, but it really is properly ending. We did see some colder air last week, but this will be even more of a shock to the system with it a good few degrees colder, and it's persistent as well, which means the air temperatures cool down at the surface, the ground temperatures will cool down. It means overnight it will be chilly, and in the day temperatures could still rise towards mid-teens, but it will feel chilly in the wind chill, and with cloud and precipitation around, it could be quite miserable as well. So you can see precipitation for London doesn't look huge, but it's quite persistent and quite frequent, so it does mean there's going to be a lot of showers, and there's a lot of convection-based precipitation, which is very difficult for the ensemble members to pick up too well. So a lot of showers, a lot of precipitation around, and again, look at the sea level pressure. You can see we are generally lower pressure. Again, anything around 1,020 millibars and above is generally higher pressure, where we are considerably below that for the foreseeable future. And if you look at the 2 meter temperatures, you can see a big drop within the next sort of 5 days from around 20 degree highs down towards 14, 15 degree highs, maybe even lower than that. And again, the lows here you can't take too literally just because they are low resolution, don't always pick up on sort of microclimate details, and we could be getting much lower than these showing. These are showing sort of higher than 5 degrees, like 7, 8, 9 degrees for the low in London. I'm expecting it to be potentially a few degrees cooler than that, and in rural areas, northern areas as well, are a lot colder as well. Could be really quite chilly and feeling cold out there as well. Perhaps for tomorrow's video, I might try and find a site that does show us the feel-like temperature, and that will give us a much better perspective on what it could feel like early next week. So we'll have a look at that potentially tomorrow. And if we do finish and wrap up the video by having a look at the ECMWF Ensembles, you can see for the midnight run, very similar to the GFS, around or below average for the foreseeable future, right towards the end of the run, perhaps dipping above average again, but it is so far in the future, there's no real point looking at this stage. Sort of the reliable time frame within the next 10 days looks well below average, a lot of precipitation around, and a lot of those ensemble members dropping down to potentially towards freezing or below early next week. A lot of precipitation as well, making it feel really quite chilly indeed. Again, look at the sea level pressure, lower pressure, dominating. Look at the 2 meter temperatures as well, all dropping down towards 15 degrees or lower from the majority of the ensemble members and the averages into the start of next week. And some days, potentially next Tuesday or Wednesday, the high could only be sort of 12, 13, 14 degrees in London. And of course, London is a sort of a warm hub towards the River Thames. You've got warm sea surface temperatures that keep those temperatures up slightly. Again, a lot of urbanisation, and areas further northwards, more rural areas, more inland areas, they're going to be even colder than this. So yeah, daytime temperature could be struggling around 10 degrees for some, maybe early next week, and overnight temperatures struggling to low to mid single digits, maybe even freezing for some. And if we actually do finish up and have a look at Glasgow, have a look what that's showing for the NGFT HPA temperatures, you can see it dropping even lower, potentially more of these going down towards the -2, -3, -4 degrees at NGFT HPA, really quite chilly indeed. Of course, the average for Glasgow is a good couple of degrees colder than London, but still good 5 to 10 degrees below average this time of year. Very, very chilly indeed weather coming next week. Again, doesn't look crazy on the thermometer considering what we can see in the winter months, but for this time of year, coming off the back of a very warm, hot summer and even warm month so far, it's going to feel real cold next week, and it will be pretty chilly indeed. So make sure you do keep an eye on the forecast. If you've got any outdoor plans next week, make sure you do have necessary precautions for them. If it is too cold out there, make sure you do, if you are out in the early mornings, make sure you put on a coat, maybe even have a hat and gloves if you are out early in the morning, because it will be quite cold out there. And the biggest thing is coming off the hot summer we've had, so it's going to be quite a shock to the system. Doesn't look like there's going to be any more t-shirts and shorts, at least in the short to medium range. So yeah, proper autumnal conditions arriving with this cold front early next week, or at least properly with this cold front early next week. So anyway, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.